Have you ever felt the sting of loss? The sort of loss that makes you question everything you once thought was secure and permanent. Perhaps it wasn't a physical loss, but something deeper. The absence of someone who was once the steadying force in your life. Someone whose very presence seemed to bring a sense of peace, of order, even when the world around you is chaos. In those moments when the heart aches and the mind is clouded, it becomes painfully clear. The void left by that person is not just the absence of a companion. It is the absence of light. And suddenly, the world feels darker, colder. You stumble through life, reaching out for the warmth that once surrounded you, only to realize that it is no longer there. Welcome to C.S. Lewis. Here, you will discover the path to a deeper and more meaningful relationship with God. Why? Before we continue, please remember to subscribe below to stay up to date with our latest videos. Every subscribe, like, and comment helps us keep the C.S. Lewis channel going. Now, keep listening. When someone who brought peace into your life departs, it can be tempting to go back, to re-enter the room where your value wasn't recognized, where your kindness was taken for granted. But as C.S. Lewis once wisely stated, you give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give. The truth is, not everyone is able to recognize the value of what you offer until it's no longer in their life. In Matthew 7:6, Jesus says, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." This may sound harsh, but it is a stark reality that we often fail to appreciate the gifts we are given until they are gone. It's only in the absence of the sacred that we realize its value. People often think they can find something better, but what they overlook is that the gift they have is rare, irreplaceable, and filled with divine purpose. Consider this: your presence brought stability. It brought love, joy, and the very presence of God to those around you. You didn't just show up in their lives, you illuminated their world. You were the salt that seasoned their existence, the light that dispelled their darkness. And yet some didn't recognize it. They took you for granted. They mistook your unwavering kindness for weakness. They believed your forgiveness was a guarantee, and your support, something they could always rely on. But now that you're gone, they are left in the cold. The absence of your presence is a stark reminder to them of what they failed to see. The peace they once took for granted has vanished. The support they had relied on is no longer there. And now, they stumble through life, trying to fill the void, but nothing seems to bring the same comfort, the same warmth that you once offered. And yet, God has a plan in all of this. He removed you from their lives, not to punish you, but to reposition you. He took you out of places where you were undervalued, where your presence was abused, to elevate you to a place where you will be truly seen, honored, and appreciated. As C.S. Lewis said, you can't keep yourself in a room where people don't see your value. In this moment of absence, there is opportunity for reflection, for both you and those who have failed to recognize your worth. Your absence is not a defeat, but a triumph. It is the first step toward the elevation God has planned for you. It's the moment when God opens new doors, when He lifts you to a higher place, far beyond the spaces that once confined you. This journey of loss and recognition is not easy. But know this: your value has not diminished, nor will it ever. It was always there, hidden in the depths of your soul, radiating God's love and grace. The only difference now is that those who once took you for granted must face the truth of their own blindness. They must recognize that the peace they long for can only be found in God, through the light you carried. The world is a strange place. We often get so caught up in the day-to-day that we fail to see the beauty of what is right in front of us. We don't appreciate the people who bring peace into our lives until they are no longer there. This is not just a human failing, but a spiritual one. It is a consequence of the blindness that often clouds our hearts, the kind that prevents us from recognizing the blessings that God places in our path. The absence of someone who once brought light into your life can be a painful lesson. But what if that pain is not just about the loss of a person, but about something deeper? What if it's about learning to recognize the light that others bring into our lives before it fades away? What if God is using this absence to teach us to value the people He places around us? In Matthew 5:14, Jesus calls us the light of the world. We are not merely lights. We are vessels of His light, reflecting His glory to those around us. Our presence in the lives of others is not just a matter of being there. It is a matter of bringing the very presence of God. When we are in the right relationships, we bring stability, we bring peace, we bring hope. We are the bearers of something far greater than ourselves. When someone leaves, it is easy to focus on the emptiness left behind. We might wonder why we didn't recognize their worth when they were with us. We might regret the moments we took them for granted. But this kind of reflection is not just about regret, it is about growth. It is about seeing how the absence of light can lead us back to the source of that light, God Himself. Do not give dogs what is sacred, Jesus warns. When we fail to see the sacredness in others, we trample upon the treasures they bring into our lives. And when we neglect to recognize the presence of God in others, we risk the loss of blessings we never truly understood. But there is a lesson in this. The absence of someone who brought peace may push us toward a greater awareness of the peace that comes only from God. And it may lead us to recognize that we, too, are called to bring peace and light into the world around us. You see, in the absence of a person who once carried the presence of God, there is a profound emptiness. It is not just a physical gap, but a spiritual void. The peace, the love, the support. These things were not of the person alone, but were gifts from God. When we fail to appreciate these gifts, God sometimes takes them away to help us see just how much we depend on Him and the vessels He uses to bless our lives. But this absence is not meant to punish us. It is meant to awaken us. It is a call to reflect on how we value the relationships that God has entrusted to us. It is a reminder that the people in our lives are not just companions, but conduits of God's grace. And when we lose them, we are faced with the challenge of learning to fill the void with something more, a deeper relationship with God and a renewed commitment to be a light to others. As C.S. Lewis once wrote, the right response to the one you love is to see them as a gift of God, and so to give thanks for them. It is easy to forget that the people we love are gifts, that the relationships we cherish are God's way of showing us His love. But in our absence, we are called to reflect on that gift. And we are called to remember that even in our absence, we are still His vessels. In the stillness after someone has gone, there is an opportunity to grow, to heal, and to reflect on the deeper purpose behind our relationships. What would it look like if we saw every interaction, every relationship, as an opportunity to reflect God's light? What would it look like if we truly appreciated the peace and love others bring into our lives before it's too late? Perhaps that is the greater lesson, to value the sacredness of others while they are still with us, and to carry the light they leave behind into the world. The absence of a person does not mean the absence of God's love. It means that the love they brought into our lives is now meant to be carried by us. And in carrying that love, we become the light of the world that Jesus spoke of. We learn to reflect His grace, not just in the presence of others, but in their absence as well. Have you ever noticed how one action can ripple out and affect everything around it? Like throwing a stone into a still pond, the effects of a single moment can spread, touching lives in ways we never fully understand. This is true in the realm of relationships, especially those we often take for granted. When someone leaves, their absence ripples through the lives of those they left behind, causing disruption and perhaps awakening. Easy to think that our presence in someone's life is just a matter of sharing time or companionship. But what if the impact of our presence runs far deeper than we can imagine? What if we are, in fact, conduits of God's grace, His peace, His love, and His favor? Could it be that when we walk through life with others, we carry a divine influence that stretches far beyond what we see? C.S. Lewis once wrote, "You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give." This is where the beauty of human relationships lies. It's not in the things we do or the material gifts we give. It's in the way we show up, in the way we offer our hearts, in the way we pour ourselves out for others. And when we do this selflessly, when we give without expecting anything in return, we become the very vessels through which God's grace flows. Now, imagine what happens when that vessel is removed. The ripples of your absence are felt not only in the lives of those you've touched, but in places where you might never have imagined. Your absence creates an opening for others to step into a new reality, one where they see the blessing they once had, but could not appreciate. This is where the lesson of absence becomes so powerful. In the book of Matthew, Jesus tells us that we are the salt of the earth. Matthew 5:13. Salt is a small thing, yet it has the power to transform the flavor of food. It preserves and heals. In the same way, our presence in the lives of others may seem small, but the effect we have is transformative. Our love, our kindness, our encouragement, these things add flavor to the lives of those around us. But when salt is absent, the food becomes bland. And when we are absent, the lives of those we leave behind feel empty. This is the effect of our absence. The world around us begins to feel like it's missing something. People realize, perhaps too late, that what they had in us was rare. We weren't just another person in their life. We were a blessing. We were the salt, the light, the stabilizing force that kept everything in balance. And when that is taken away, the realization hits hard. The absence stirs something deep within them, a recognition that they have lost something precious, something they once took for granted. As C.S. Lewis observed, the wrong people always fail to recognize your worth until they no longer have access to your energy. This is the painful truth that many face after the departure of someone who is truly a blessing in their lives. People often don't understand the value of what they have until it is gone. They think that someone else can replace you, that they can find the same peace and stability elsewhere. But the truth is, they cannot. There is only one you, and your absence leaves a void that no one else can fill. God, in His infinite wisdom, uses these moments of absence to teach us valuable lessons. When He removes someone from our lives, it's not just about their removal. It's about the lesson we are meant to learn. It's about seeing the role that person played in our lives and understanding just how much we depended on them. But more than that, it's about realizing that their presence was a gift from God, and in their absence, we are called to reflect on how we value the gifts God gives us before they are gone. Your absence doesn't just affect those around you, it changes you too. It forces you to reckon with your own worth, with the value you bring to others. It pushes you to step into a new place of understanding that your presence was never just about your actions, but about the divine calling God placed on your life. When you leave, you are not just leaving an empty space, you are creating room for God's next plan to unfold in your life and in the lives of those you leave behind. It's tempting to feel guilty when we walk away from relationships where we've poured ourselves out, where we've given all we had to offer. We may feel as though we've abandoned those who need us. But sometimes, leaving is the most loving thing we can do. It's not about revenge or punishment. It's about giving others the space to grow, to see the value of what they had, and to learn from their mistakes. In the story of the prodigal son, Luke 15:11-32, the son left his father's house, thinking he could find a better life elsewhere. He squandered everything, only to realize in the depths of his despair that what he had lost was irreplaceable. He returned to his father, humbled and broken, and was welcomed back with open arms. This is a powerful reminder that sometimes we must allow others to feel the loss before they can fully understand the value of what they once had. As we reflect on the lessons of absence, we must also recognize that God has a purpose in every season of our lives. He uses every relationship, every loss, every absence to move us closer to His will. The ripples that flow from our absence are part of a greater plan, one that is often beyond our understanding. But in the end, those ripples can bring others back to the Father, just as they bring us back to Him. The hardest thing about walking away is the act of letting go. Letting go of the people you've poured into, the relationships you've invested in, and the moments that once felt so secure. The world tells us that leaving is a sign of failure, that walking away is something to be ashamed of. But the truth is, sometimes letting go is the most courageous thing we can do. It is not a sign of weakness, but a step towards spiritual growth and elevation. In Philippians 3:13-14, the Apostle Paul writes, "Brothers and sisters, I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. But one thing I do, forgetting what is behind and straining toward what is ahead, I press on toward the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus." Letting go of the past, of people, situations that no longer serve us, is not easy, but it is a necessary step in moving forward. God has something greater for us, something beyond the familiar, beyond the relationships that have drained us and held us back. When God removes you from a situation, it is not always because you've done something wrong. It is often because He is preparing you for something better. As C.S. Lewis once said, "You can't go back and change the beginning, but you can start where you are and change the ending." The key is not to look back at what you've left behind, but to look forward to what God has in store for you. Sometimes we are so consumed with what we've lost that we fail to see the incredible opportunities waiting for us in the future. There is something profound about the act of letting go. It is a declaration of faith, a step toward trusting that God knows what is best for us, even when we can't see the full picture. When we let go of toxic relationships or situations that no longer align with God's purpose for us, we make room for new opportunities, new relationships, and new blessings. The act of letting go is not a rejection of the people we leave behind. It is an acceptance of what God is calling us to. in Ryan. The act of letting go is not a rejection of the people. It is about trusting that His plan for our lives is greater than any plan we could have for ourselves. Just as God called Abraham to leave his homeland and his family, Genesis 12:1-3, He sometimes calls us to step away from what is familiar to embrace something new. Abraham's journey was not an easy one, but it was one that led to blessings beyond his imagination. Letting go is not just about releasing people or places. It is about releasing the control we often try to hold over our lives. When we hold on too tightly, we miss the beauty of what God is trying to do. By surrendering to Him, we allow ourselves to be positioned for something greater than we could have ever planned for ourselves. It is in letting go that we begin to trust God more fully, to lean into His guidance, and to step into the unknown with confidence, knowing that He is leading us. As C.S. Lewis reminds us, there are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. This is the essence of letting go, recognizing that God's plan for us is always moving us towards something better. The pain of letting go is real, but it is not the end. It is the beginning of something new. It is the process of being refined, of being shaped into the person God has called us to be. Think of the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. His brothers sold him into slavery, and for many years he endured hardship and isolation. But God had a purpose for Joseph's life, and through every trial, He was preparing him for something greater. When Joseph's brothers finally came to him in desperation, they realized that the very person they had rejected and sold was the one who held the key to their salvation. Joseph, in his wisdom and grace, forgave them, recognizing that God had been at work all along. The pain of his separation from his family was not in vain. It was part of God's greater plan. Just as Joseph's absence from his family led to their eventual reconciliation, sometimes our absence from certain relationships or situations is part of God's plan to awaken others to the value we once brought into their lives. When we let go, we give others the opportunity to reflect on what they had, to recognize the blessings they took for granted, and to seek redemption. In the same way, letting go allows us to step into the future God has prepared for us. It opens up space for new beginnings, for new relationships that will honor and appreciate the light we bring into the world. It allows us to move forward, not weighed down by the past, but uplifted by the hope of what lies ahead. Sometimes, the hardest part of letting go is trusting that God has a plan. But in every season of life, whether in times of abundance or loss, we are called to trust in His goodness. He promises that He will never leave us nor forsake us. Hebrews 13:5. His plan for our lives is filled with hope. And even when we walk away from what we know, we are walking toward His perfect purpose. When we are faced with absence, the world feels quiet, almost too quiet. It is as if all the noise, the distractions, and the constant motion of life have suddenly stopped. In these moments of stillness, we are often forced to reflect. And though it may be painful at first, this reflection is a gift. One that can lead us to deeper understanding, healing, and ultimately, spiritual growth. The absence of a person, the quiet left behind by their departure, is not merely a void. It is a space where God often speaks to us most clearly. When everything else fades away, we are left with the truth. The relationships that matter are those that are grounded in Him, and the peace we feel in the presence of others is a reflection of His divine presence. Psalm 46:10 says, "Be still, and know that I am God." There is power in stillness. It is in those quiet moments that we can truly hear God's voice, guiding us, comforting us, and revealing His plans for our lives. Too often, we fill the silence with our own thoughts, our own regrets, and our own frustrations. But in the stillness, God's voice speaks with clarity. It is a gentle whisper, inviting us to rest in His love and trust in His guidance. Reflecting on the absence of someone is not just about sorrow or regret. It is about recognizing the beauty that person brought into our lives, the way their presence reflected God's light, even if we didn't fully appreciate it at the time. C.S. Lewis said, "The most exhausting thing in life is being insincere." In relationships, this is where we often struggle. We get so caught up in appearances, in playing roles, that we forget to recognize the truth of who we are and who others are. But when someone is no longer there to play a role, we are faced with the truth. We can no longer hide from our emotions, our thoughts, or the reality of what was lost. The absence of a loved one brings clarity. We begin to see how much they truly mattered. We see the way they loved us, the way they sacrificed for us, and the way they brought peace into our lives. And as we reflect on their absence, we are called to examine our own hearts. Did we truly honor them while they were with us? Did we show them the appreciation they deserved? In moments like these, God invites us to grow. He calls us to a deeper understanding of the relationships in our lives. He reminds us that each person is a gift, a reflection of His love, and that we are called to love others with the same depth and sincerity that He loves us. When we lose someone, it is a reminder that we are all just passing through this world, and we must cherish every moment, every relationship, and every opportunity to show love. In the absence of others, we often discover more about ourselves. We see the places in our hearts that need healing, the areas where we've neglected to show love, and the ways in which we've allowed bitterness or unforgiveness to take root. But just as God uses absence to bring clarity, He also uses it to bring healing. Through reflection, He shows us where we need to grow, where we need to forgive, and where we need to embrace His grace. C.S. Lewis wrote, "Pain is not only to be expected, it is to be welcomed as a gift from God." This may sound paradoxical, but it is in our pain that we are most open to transformation. It is in our sorrow that we are able to experience the depth of God's love and grace. And it is through the absence of others that we learn to appreciate the beauty of God's presence in our lives. Just as the loss of a loved one can bring clarity, so too can it bring healing. When we look back on those relationships, we may see that they were never about us, but about God working through us. The love we shared, the support we gave, and the peace we brought into the lives of others were all reflections of His love, shining through our hearts. And even when we are no longer present, that love does not fade. It continues to grow, to spread, and to touch lives in ways we may never fully understand. It is through reflection that we find healing, and it is through healing that we are prepared for the next season of our lives. God's love is constant, even when our circumstances change. His presence never leaves us, and His plan for us is always moving us towards something greater. The absence of a person in our lives is not the end. It is simply a moment in the story, a moment where we pause to reflect and grow. It is a deeply unsettling experience, this feeling of being separated from someone you once cherished. The bond you shared, the love you gave, and the trust you built. Suddenly it all seems broken, like shattered glass. Yet in the midst of this separation there is a truth that many fail to see at first. God has a purpose for everything, even in the pain of separation. It is through these moments of distance that God often reshapes us, refines us, and positions us for a future we cannot yet see. In Ecclesiastes 3:1, we are reminded, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." Separation, in the eyes of God, is not a random event. It is part of a larger plan, a divine orchestration that stretches beyond our understanding. While we may feel the weight of the absence, God is at work, moving us toward a new season, a new chapter. It is not a punishment, but a preparation for something greater. When we experience loss or separation, it is natural to question God. We may ask, "Why did this happen?" Or, "What is the purpose of this pain?" But instead of focusing on the pain, we are called to shift our perspective. As C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Pain is God's megaphone to rouse a deaf world." Pain is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a transformation. It is in the moments of hurt, in the times of isolation, that we are often most attuned to God's voice. It is when we are broken that we are most open to being healed. Consider the life of Joseph. His story, as told in Genesis, is one of separation and restoration. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers, a betrayal that seemed impossible to overcome. Yet, through his separation from his family, Joseph was elevated to a position of power in Egypt. His rise to power was not just for his own benefit, but for the salvation of his family and many others. What his brothers intended for harm, God used for good. Genesis 50:20. The separation, painful as it was, led to the fulfillment of God's greater plan. In our own lives, we may find that the painful separations we experience are not the end of the story. They are part of God's plan to position us for something better. God is always at work behind the scenes, even when we cannot see the bigger picture. The separation is a divine act of protection, a call to grow, and an invitation to trust that His plans are always better than our own. C.S. Lewis captured this idea beautifully when he said, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's own or real life. The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's life." Our lives are filled with moments of interruption, moments where things don't go according to our plan, where relationships are tested, and where the road ahead seems uncertain. But it is in these moments of interruption that God often speaks the loudest, shaping us into the people He has called us to be. In these moments, God invites us to release control. He asks us to trust in His timing, His wisdom, and His love. While we may not understand the reasons behind the separation, we can trust that God is working all things together for our good. Romans 8:28. The absence we feel is not a sign of abandonment, but a sign that God is making space in our lives for something new. He is removing what is no longer serving us and preparing us for the next chapter. This is where faith comes in. It is easy to trust God when everything is going well, when relationships are thriving, and when life feels stable. But true faith is tested in the moments of separation, in the times when we feel alone and uncertain. It is in these moments that we are called to trust that God's plans for us are good, even when they don't align with our own desires. Think of Jesus Himself. When He was crucified, His disciples were devastated. They could not understand why he had to leave them. Yet his death and separation from them were part of God's greater plan, the plan of redemption for all humanity. Jesus' absence created space for the Holy Spirit to come, to guide, comfort, and empower his followers. His separation was not a loss, it was a divine preparation for something far greater. In the same way, our moments of separation, whether from people or situations, are often the moments that prepare us for greater things. God uses these times to draw us closer to him, to refine us, and to remind us that we are never truly alone. His presence is constant, even when others are absent. As we come to the end of this journey, we find ourselves standing at the threshold of something new. The path we've walked has been filled with loss, pain, and reflection. We've experienced the heartache of absence, the discomfort of letting go, and the silence that follows when someone or something we once relied upon is no longer there. But in every ending, there is always a beginning. And it is in these moments of endings that God often does his greatest work. In 2 Corinthians 5:17, Paul writes, "Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old has gone. The new is here." When we experience the absence of someone or something, it is a form of death, an end to what once was. But this death is not the final word. God specializes in new beginnings, in resurrection. Just as Christ was raised from the dead, we too are invited into new life, into new opportunities, into a future that is greater than anything we could have imagined. C.S. Lewis understood this profound truth. He wrote, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind." This is the truth we must cling to as we navigate through times of loss and separation. God's plan for us is always moving us towards something better. What we lose in one season, we will gain back in another, often in ways we never expected. When we let go of the past, when we accept the absence of what once was, we make room for something new. We open ourselves to God's will, to his purposes, and to the incredible blessings he has in store for us. Just as a seed must be buried in the ground before it can sprout and grow, sometimes we must experience the pain of loss before we can experience the beauty of new beginnings. Think of the story of Job. He lost everything, his wealth, his health, his family, and yet, through his suffering, God brought him into a season of restoration. Job 42:10 tells us, after Job had prayed for his friends, the Lord restored his fortunes and gave him twice as much as he had before. Job's loss was great, but God's restoration was even greater. And in the same way, God uses our times of absence and loss to prepare us for his restoration. In our own lives, we may not always see how the pieces fit together. We may not understand why God allows certain relationships or situations to end, but we can trust that he is always working for our good. Every loss is an opportunity for growth. Every absence is an invitation to draw nearer to him. And every ending is a chance to embrace a new beginning. As we walk through life, we are reminded that we are not defined by our losses or our separations. We are defined by the love of God that is ever present in our lives. We are defined by the grace that he offers us every day, the grace that transforms us, renews us, and empowers us to walk boldly into the future he has planned for us. Your absence is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of something greater. As you step forward, know that God is with you. He is guiding you, healing you, and positioning you for greater things. And just as he has been faithful in the past, he will continue to be faithful in the future. So, as you reflect on the lessons learned in the seasons of absence and separation. Remember this: God has not forgotten you. He is not punishing you. He is preparing you. He is elevating you. And He is preparing a new chapter in your life, one that will be filled with blessings beyond your understanding. Take heart in this truth. You are not alone. God has a plan for you, a plan that is far greater than anything you could have ever imagined. And as you embrace the new beginnings that He has prepared for you, trust that He is leading you into a future filled with hope, peace, and love. As we come to the close of this story, reflect on the deep truths that God has revealed to you through each chapter. The absence of certain people or situations is not a punishment. It is a divine preparation for something greater. Let go of what holds you back, trust in God's timing, and embrace the new beginnings He has for you. Remember, your absence may leave a void, but it also makes space for God to move in your life and the lives of others. Don't be afraid to step into the unknown. God is always with you, guiding you toward His plan of restoration and blessing. If this story resonated with you, we would love to hear your thoughts. Please share your reflections in the comments below and subscribe to the C.S. Lewis channel for more inspirational stories and teachings. Let's walk this journey of faith and growth together.